I am beautifully, wonderfully, perfectly made, and the world needs who I was meant to be. Now that's a strange introduction. It's not one that I use very often, but those are words that I've shared for the better part of my life. For 15 years, I was an ordained pastor. I can't count the number of children's sermons and counseling sessions that I was a part of when I would share those very words. But I never believed them for myself. I loved church as a kid. We went to a small Baptist church that was 2 doors down from our house. We would walk there most Sundays, our Bibles wrapped in these neat little fabric holders. Mine had dinosaurs on it, complete with highlighters and pencils, and all of our friends went to this church as well. I remember how big that church seemed when I was a little kid. The red velvet curtains and the brass candelabras and the slight curve of the pews that seemed to hug the communion table, like arms drawing in the pulpit closer. But I remember learning Bible stories, Bible verses, memorizations and drills and Bible club and Bible school, Sunday school. I learned every book of the Bible. I can still sing the song today, if you're wondering. And it sunk down deep in my heart. I learned the really important verses. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. For the wages of sin is death. Depart from me, I never knew you. From the youngest age, I was taught that I was no good. That nothing about me, myself, was good. That I should never trust my heart, that our hearts are deceived. So I grew up in this nurturing environment that both held me close and molded me and warned me of the dangers of others. Others like me. I had all the right stuff. I was a star Sunday school student. I went to church camps and volunteered. I always had the starring role in Easter and Christmas plays. But I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in 8th grade. I was standing at my locker that was 2 lockers down from the home ec room. I was standing in my knockoff Tommy Hilfiger hoodie and my real Tommy Hilfiger sandals, complete with tall white socks. I looked extra nerdy that day. And he walked by. I'll call him Brandon. Brandon walked by, and Brandon and I made eye contact, and I felt something weird in my stomach. Like, Brandon's cute. Like, Brandon's really cute. And in that moment, those butterflies turned into something else. Something dark. You see, I never thought for a moment that I might be gay. Instead, I thought that I was broken. So fast forwarding through life, I continued on Bible studies and ministry and seminary and marriage and children and ordinations and congregations. And long before I found myself open and affirming, long before I was ever able to see past the internalized homophobia and theological trauma to begin to process that I might be gay. Long before everything in my life changed and I felt free to be myself, I was a pastor. In a small, closed-minded church with pews that seemed to hug the communion table. And I would stand behind the communion table on Sundays. And holding up a chalice, I would invite all to come, and I would say, taste and see that the Lord is good. And I would hold up the bread, and I would break it, and I would extend it to the congregation to share it. And I would invite them to come, but not without a warning. The same warning that I heard when I was a kid. Every communion Sunday when I was sitting in that second pew, right behind the organist, feeling broken. I would hear and later say, those who eat and drink at this table unworthily eat and drink upon themselves damnation. And I would serve and I would smile and I would feel broken and I would wonder if I was that unworthy woman. If I was the lost cause that everyone else got warned about. And so in early 2014, I felt a nudge to leave everything. I sold my house, I quit my job, I surrendered my credentials, and I found myself in process of being ordained in a large mainline Christian denomination, fighting for equal rights for LGBTQ clergy and members, still unwilling, unable, incapable of realizing that I wasn't broken, that I didn't need fixing, that I was beautifully, wonderfully, perfectly made, and that the world needed who I was created to be. Until one evening in 2018, I was leading a book on sexuality and my denomination's position on LGBTQ inclusion, and as I was guiding this conversation and standing in front of a room full of parishioners and my supervisors and colleagues, it was like my eyes were unscaled, and I realized that I was gay. Though I didn't dare say those words, I kept it to myself. After all, my life was safe. It was comfortable. But then, as we just heard, 2020 happened. Social distancing and homeschooling and online worship services and fear of sickness and death upon death upon death in my congregation that I was leading, and couple that with a move and a building project and societal unrest and rampant racism and political division and a bickering, backbiting church. It was a year that made all of us reevaluate our lives. But I was given the first of 4 beautiful gifts. In a particularly hard work week in November of 2020, a week filled with deaths and arguments about money issues, my then wife could tell that I was struggling. And she asked a hard question. Do you think you might be gay? Grabbed my pearls, of course, and shocked. But in that moment, I had to make a choice. Do I really believe that I am beautifully, wonderfully, perfectly made? Do I believe that the world needs who I am created to be? And so through tears later that evening, we talked through a 1.5-year struggle of knowing how to process that I was gay, and we knew that we loved each other too much to remain married. We both deserved more. And so over the next weeks, we told our family and our closest friends, and I'll never forget the second beautiful gift that I received, one that my father gave me. He and I were having a cup of coffee, and I was talking about my plans to be single and celibate as my denomination demanded of me, my plans to put off love for another day and focus on my kids and on ministry. And he quite seriously leaned in and said, make me this promise, that you won't give up your chance for happiness for a church that doesn't care about you. And though I didn't know that it was a gift at the time, I tucked it away in my back pocket. So as the months went by, I began to be more comfortable with myself. And so with one foot out of the closet and one foot still in the pulpit, I went on a few dates and I started building a network of people that I trusted and I hiked. Nature, water was my healing place. Until one day on a dating app, I saw a gorgeous smile. A smile that I'd never seen before on there. And if you are gay and celibate, you know those dating apps don't have too many new faces on them. But after some messaging, I invited this beautiful man over for dinner. And in that moment that I first laid eyes on him, my soul knew his soul. And while he himself is a gift to the world and a gift to me, the real gift is the way that he helped me to learn to love and accept myself. You see, on the day of our second date, I received a 4th gift, a painful gift, but a gift that has opened the door to new life. A staff member at the church that I was serving had taken the opportunity to out me as gay to the congregation and threaten me. And while my initial reaction was to fight back, hell hath no fury like a gay man scorned, I realized this, and this was my gift. I realized that if I need to fight for my place at any table, then that table isn't anywhere I want to be. So on that second date with this incredible man, I wasn't even out of his driveway before I cried. And he placed his hand on my hand and he listened. And he held my hand and he held my heart. And that evening and in the days afterwards, I learned to love myself. And to grasp that I am beautifully, wonderfully, perfectly made. And that my first calling is to embrace the divine in me, to embrace that spark of the universe that makes me who I am. And almost a year to the day after I first said the words, I am gay, I took off my robe and I stole one last time, and I've never had a moment of regret. And my real life work has begun. My life work is to raise children that see their dad be his best, true, authentic self, to see their dad bravely walk away from any organization that would dare ask him to be anyone other than who he was created to be. My life work is to fiercely love that man who walked with me through the most difficult and joy-filled transitions of my life, to hold his hand as together we grow into the best versions of ourselves. And that man is my fiance, and I can't wait to spend a lifetime loving him. But the journey to this place wasn't easy. The pull to believe that I am broken was so great because it was indoctrinated in me. It was my identity, it was my faith, it was my career. But love never fades. Where I was told I had work to do, had things to accomplish, had characteristics to change, had qualities that were shameful and wrong, I now see that I am perfectly, wonderfully, beautifully made. And that the world needs who I was created to be. And I was never lost. I was on my way home because home was never further away than right here. In the middle of all of these changes, I discovered a poem that I've clung to, a vision of my life by the poet Lang Lee. You won't believe what I see from this vantage point. The years stretching out before you like a long, winding road. I don't want to scare you, but there's a forest just up ahead. And you'll wander lost in this long, perilous night, not knowing if it will ever come to an end. But believe me, the light will find you again. And when it does, you will no longer be afraid of the dark. So stop and catch your breath. Soon a jagged mountain of ice will rise up before you, so steep it will make you want to turn back, but don't despair. The first foothold is always the most difficult. And every inch you claim of that cold, hard precipice will only make you stronger. And before you know it, the ground will level out beneath you, and you will look back to see that you had conquered what you thought was impossible. See that turn up ahead? That's the place where love will meet you. With arms so warm, it will melt away winter in an instant. And then it will be summer for a very long time.